My people, my Biafran people, now how on a day? I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending from where you're listening to the sound of my voice. This is the Biafra Superstars Media, and I'm holding it down. I say may God bless Biafra, and may God bless His Excellency Oyendo Mazenam. May God bless, may God bless, may God bless, may God bless His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, His Excellency ESN Ekpa Simon and Joku for the job Simon is doing. Simon, I want to say we thank you. We appreciate you. We love you because we know in your hands Biafra is coming. In your hands Biafra is safe. And in your hands, when Biafra comes, the people of Biafra will rejoice. We shall come together under one voice and scream for Hallelujah Day because the day of redemption has come. My fellow Biafrans, the media, they're speaking again. And today I want to implore you all to listen to what they are saying from the UN to the rest of them, the ICC and the rest. Those giving an eyewitness account of what they saw when they went to the damnable Zoo Republic. If you're ready, let's go there. Listen. UN Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial summary or arbitrary executions has just ended a 2-week visit to Nigeria. Agnes Callamard has been looking at alleged abuses committed by security forces in the north and south, where a separatist movement has been gaining ground. Well, Callamard is warning the Nigerian government to address what she's calling a pressure cooker of violence that is claiming thousands of lives. A report also highlights excessive use of force by police, leading to killings and lack of investigations and prosecutions for those committing human rights abuses. Well, Callamard says she found an absence of accountability and a lack of justice for victims. Well, Agnes Callamard joins us live now from Abuja. Agnes, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. That is a pretty long list there. Tell us more about what your visit to Nigeria has uncovered. I noticed the phrase in your press conference earlier, a pressure cooker of violence. So what did you find?
Well, I could not really use any other words than pressure cooker. I have found localized and countrywide patterns of violence that are simmering. And my main concerns with those localized and countrywide systems of violence is that they are now taking place in a context characterized by population explosion, by an increased number of people living in extreme poverty, by the proliferation of weapons coming from throughout the region of West Africa, and by the environmental degradations. So those external pressure applied on top of those ecosystems, eco-political systems of violence are ready to conflagrate, to explode in a way which I don't think we have yet completely understood. So my preliminary finding today was really to issue this warning both to the government and to the international community. There is in Nigeria a pressure cooker that, if it is unchecked, could have ripple effect.
Hold it there, with all due respect. She's calling it a pressure cooker. Madam, I want you to know that the way you've described Nigeria is even of a less, you painted a picture which was even trying to, to an extent, make it look like a child's play. Because it is worse than that, madam, with all due respect. I understand you were there for 2 weeks. Perhaps you were not able to go down to the Biafra land to see what is happening. There is a war going on out there. That's nobody is safe from it. There is a war going on in Biafra land. We have gone beyond the scope of describing the situations in Biafra like a pressure cooker. Because in a pressure cooker, as we know here in the Western world, as long as the lid is covered, you are fine. The food might be burning. You might be hearing the whistle from the pressure cooker to let you know it is time to turn off the heat. But if you keep on leaving the heat on, Your food might be burning inside that pressure cooker, but the lid is still covered. It means the lid is still warm. But in the case of Nigeria, people have described it as being a country sitting on a keg of gunpowder. It means the moment you lift up, there will be a combustion. There will be an explosion. Madam, with all due respect, the way you have described Nigeria is the least of anyone's imagination. If you were a stakeholder from that place called Nigeria, I understand you were there for 2 weeks. Probably you stayed in the best hotels. Probably you didn't have time to go into the outskirts, into the deep lands, and see what is happening for yourself. So describing Nigeria as a pressure cooker, to me, is you trying to, be more soft, more humane, more understanding, and you were trying to patch up the crack to an extent. Because Nigeria is a crime scene, there is a war going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is in a war zone as we in fact, it's a war-torn country. Go down to Biafra land and see for yourself. Children are being killed. Men, women raped. Organs being harvested. Organs being harvested by the Nigerian police and the military. They see a Christian drinking beer. If you're in a restaurant, in a bar, because of the peculiar nature of the military being sent to Biafra land, because of their religious background, it is haram for them to see a Biafran drinking in a bar, in an alcohol, drinking with your friend, wine, spirits. It's a taboo. For that reason, they burn down the restaurant. Anyone seen there will burnt alive. And sometimes, in most cases, when they come in search for somebody in a community and that person was not found, they take the anger on any restaurant or fast food that they see selling spirit or alcohol. That's to show you how decaying that country is. They burn down buildings. They burn down restaurants for selling alcohol. The Nigeria that you once knew in 1960 is not the Nigeria of today. The Nigeria that Britain created in 1960 is not the Nigeria of today. The new Nigeria as you have it now is being run and bankrolled by Saudi Arabia. And their mission is to Islamize Nigeria. Which is why all the so-called repentant Boko Haram soldiers, as we speak, they have been recruited into the Nigerian military and they've all been sent to Biafra land. There is a war going on in Biafra land. So when you say Nigeria is like a pressure cooker, with all due respect, that's an understatement. It's an understatement. I know you are there based on working for the UN, but I want you to know that your explanation is childlike. You were just beaten on the crumbs. You didn't go in depth to know what is happening in Nigeria. Let's continue.
Throughout the regions. And now is a time to prioritize the rule of law and accountability for the people of Nigeria.
Agnes, you used the word crisis and said in your press conference that, you don't want the government to pretend this is not a crisis. But how do they view the situation that you bring up in your report?
Good question. You reveal it as a crisis. Now tell us how the government viewed your review. How did they see what you saw? You came for 2 weeks, you saw what was going on, and you called it a crisis. Now the question is, how did those who run Nigeria seize it? That's the irony of life. That's the irony of life. If you're ready, let us listen to the explanation given by this lady. Listen.
Well, you will have to ask them. I think I don't think I have made any sharp or stark revelations to the government. Whether or not authorities are willing to admit the extent of the problem is a different matter. But in all my meetings with officials, in the majority of my meetings with officials, there is an acknowledgement of the scale and the extent of the problems. That gives me some hope that the authorities, with the necessary leadership and political will be able to begin a roadmap towards addressing the lack of accountability, towards ensuring that killings, particularly by the police, but not only, that all the killings are investigated.
Hold it there, madam, with all due respect. You are hoping, you are envisaging that they will begin a roadmap. Madam, with all due respect, do you know how long this atrocity has been happening? Your hope is that after you've visited for 2 weeks, they may somehow begin a roadmap to address what's been going on. That's the biggest mistake, madam. That's where you got it wrong. Because for you to assume that despite all the write-ups we've been doing, the UN, you've got a dossier of writers right into you, inquiries, incident reports about what is happening there in Nigeria to the people of Biafra especially. You've gotten those letters, those memos, those videos. And now you're saying you are hoping, you are in hopes that they will come out and start to try to implement things the right way. You see, most of you Biafrans out there, you heard this video and you were dancing for joy. But what I did was to take my time to analyze what this lady was saying. And in this case, she's saying she hopes they will start working on a roadmap. A roadmap means to come up with a plan, put in place, with your milestones. Create a picture of how to deal with the situation. This is the 11th hour. We, the Biafrans, we are leaving Nigeria from the 2nd of December. Less than 2 months to go, because we're already in October. And here she's speaking about hoping. She is hoping that the Nigerian government will come up with a roadmap to address those situations. Wow. For you out there who believe in the UN, you assume that the UN, they will be the ones to solve your problems. I hope now you've seen what is going on. If somebody from the UN is speaking this way, and just over the weekend, we saw the Yoruba nation, they went to London to tender in a document, supposedly to the British Prime Minister. This is what we are talking about. Unless you take your destiny into your own hands, you're wasting your time. If you think these Western organizations built, designed to take care of the affairs of the Western world, if you assume they will come down to Africa and do what is right. No. They will only come and suggest a roadmap, a blueprint, a pathway into dealing with the situations. And they are hoping that the aggressors, those doing the pillaging, those doing the killing, they are hoping they will be the one to come and draw out a roadmap and also implement it. The aggressor will be the one to implement the roadmap. You guys don't understand it. For most of you waiting for the UN, you are calling on ICC, you are calling on EU, you are going to Britain to speak to the Prime Minister via a letter. You're wasting your time, with all due respect. If you need this freedom, if you need your freedom, you must go and grab it with both hands. Nobody will give you freedom. Nobody will give you independence. If they give you independence without shedding blood, what they call the platter of gold, to gain your independence in a platter of gold, in a plate of gold, when you look in depth, you will see that there are some carrot and sticks, some caveats, some strings attached to your so-called freedom. When you go deeper, you will now assume and see that to an extent they are talking about a particular people, a particular tribe, a particular region being born to rule, given the privilege to rule the government and be answerable to Britain, as in the case of Nigeria. You started as Wazobia. Wazobia, Wa for the Yorubas, Zo for Hausas, Bia for the Igbos, or the Eastern region. But today, there is a fourth force. There is a new sheriff in town known as the Fulani Caliphate. They came through the back doors, opened ajar by the Hausa tribe or the Hausa nation in the belief of doing politics. They assumed they were doing politics. They wanted more numbers in politics. And they opened up their borders, allowed the Fulani Caliphate to come in. And today, the Fulani Caliphate, they have run through Hausa land. Those you know as Hausa, they are now left at the background. They are now at the periphery. When it comes to politics, they are now people who don't even have any influence no more. All the governors in the north are mainly from the Fulani tribe. Those in the House of Senate, House of Reps, local government chairmen, emirs. As you see now what is happening, that the Boko Haram, they are taking the life of the emirs who are from the Hausa, lineage and the rest of them. Today, Hausa is gone. Today, the people of Nupe, they are gone. They are more concentrated around Niger State. Nupe people, they are crying out that their land has been taken over by the caliphate. So when you say that you got your freedom in a plate of gold, this is what you are bound to go through. You've heard of the people of Chagos Island. They are about to get free. But you saw what they went through. Britain came up and planned with America and with the UN to say they were just migrants in their land, in Chagos Island. They claimed they were migrants who came from Mauritius to do business. They came with a work visa to work in those islands. And they could be sent back to Mauritius. Real freedom doesn't come in a platter of gold. Real freedom, you must fight and sweat, die for it. Some have to die for it. You must go all out to get it. Don't care about what the UN says, because today, a lady who spent 2 weeks, perhaps in the posh areas of Nigeria, from hotel to hotel, having the best of meals for 2 weeks, enjoying the sunshine, she has come out with an analysis to say Nigeria is like a pressure cooker. There is pressure from all angles. You could hear the hiss of the sound. to let you know that the pressure is on the maximum. As they say, pressure bursts pipe. But Nigeria is notorious because of the advent of tribalism, nepotism, retapism. Nigeria is notorious because even when the people know there is a problem, because the president, the governor is from their tribe, they keep a blind eye. Because to them, it's all about politics and tribalism. So Britain knew what they did. That's why till this day, Nigeria is still remaining as one. But we, the Biafra, we shall go the right way to deal with that nonsense. So with all due respect, my lady, it's okay for you to call it a pressure cooker. But all we are saying is we are done with that thing called Nigeria. We refuse to be subjects of Britain. Britain came to Nigeria, or to that locality they call Nigeria. That geographical expression called Nigeria. They came there not because they love us, not because they cared for us, not because there is mutual respect. They came for resources. They came in search of resource. They went around the whole world in search of resource. So don't tell me that Britain has this affinity for us. They came, they colonized us. Before their so-called colonization, they enslaved us. We were a free people doing our business, minding our business, not migrating to Europe. We remained in Africa until they came. They enslaved us. They overpowered us and enslaved us. And they came back to colonize us. And when they were about to leave, despite they've stolen enough, they still came and planted the seed of discord, where they told a particular tribe they were born to rule. Until this day, that's been the problem. That's been the conundrum Nigeria finds herself. So you saying that Nigeria is like a pressure cooker, it is an understatement of what is happening in that damnable Zulu Republic. With all due respect. It's gone beyond that. It's gone beyond that. Let's continue.
That the systemic factors such as the lack of resources of the police, the lack of training, that all those resources issues are addressed. Let me remind you that Nigeria is a middle-income country. So I have approached the questions of arbitrary killings within that context, and what I have found is not in keeping with what I would expect from a middle-income country.
We are not a middle-income country. We, the Biafrans, we have all the resources that the whole world needs. And when Biafra comes, we shall be sparring when it comes to income and GDP and the rest of them with countries like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and the rest of them. Singapore, even China, because we have what they have, and we also have the skills, and we have more. We have the manpower. Don't describe we the Biafrans as middle-income people. Despite we don't even have any access to government in that zoo, we are still doing businesses. We are billionaires in our field. We've been successful in what we do, despite not having access to the wealth, nor the resource from our land. So your description might be based on the other tribes. That's their business. But we, the Biafrans, when Biafra comes, we shall be the darling of the world. We shall be the big brother of Africa. We shall be a light and a very good example of of the role of a black man, how it should be. We'll take it back to the way it was. Don't come here and tell me we are a middle-income country. A contraption created by Britain. You are here trying to describe us as a middle-income country. No, we the Biafrans, we are rich. Come to Biafra, you will see a place where the streets are made of gold. The red sand you see, it is synonymous to gold. A place filled with milk and honey. You will literally find that in the land of Biafra. When Biafra comes, that nonsense of being described as a third world nation, that will go off the window. You know that Britain knows this, which is why they have refused to let us go. And we are saying that nonsense will stop. Don't come and describe my people, the Biafrans, as middle-income country. There must be a distinction between us and the rest of the other tribe who choose to be slaves, who choose to be subjugated by a so-called contraption called Nigeria. For my people, we are saying enough is enough. We are going back home. Biafra is calling us. And from the 2nd of December, I hope someone like you will support for the real freedom of the people who have decided to take a destiny into their own hands. Hey, people who wants to break away from a so-called country, a business known as Royal Niger, owned by Britain. From Royal Niger, you now got the Niger area. The area of the Niger. A people saying they want to break away from from the man-made creation of Britain. A people trying to break away to go back the way it was before the coming of the white man in Africa. A people saying they want to wean themselves off anything that has to do with their slave masters and their colonizers. We are saying we are done with Nigeria. That's the question I'm asking you. Are you ready to support us to get a real freedom? Or are you here to play to the gallery and say, oh, you've been to Nigeria and Nigeria is like a pressure cooker and you're expecting those who made it the way it is to be the one to come with a roadmap, with a blueprint to solve the problems? You mentioned recruiting the police, having more police. Do you know how things are happening that even the police and military from Nigeria, they have the intention to Islamize the people? Do you know how corrupt the police is in that so-called Nigeria? Have you done your research? You work in the UN, United Nations. Have you done your research? Do you know about Nigeria? Do you know what is happening in Nigeria? Have you gone through the reports written by people about what is happening, what they've gone through in that so-called Nigeria? These are pertinent questions. These are questions I expect you to deal with. Go back to your drawing board. Go back to your files and check. Read what people have written about Nigeria, what they have gone through in the hands of Nigeria. People have asked for freedom and they've been killed. People asked for justice and they were hung. Somebody like Ken Saroyewa who asked for a freedom, the right to do things the right way in his land, his native Ogoni land, and you saw what happened to him by the then Fulani head of state, Sani Abacha. He was hung in broad daylight. And nothing the Western world could say because those were things influenced by the so-called big oil companies and the rest of them. Because you wanted the oil from Ogoni land without doing due diligence in dealing with the situations there. Their champion was killed. And today you're here saying, oh, you've been to Nigeria for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. And you're calling what is happening. You are describing what is happening in Nigeria to that of a pressure cooker. Madam, with all due respect, your description does not even fit what is happening in even a local government in that thing you called Nigeria. Nigeria is gone. Nigeria is a failed state. Only still being glued together by tribalism. Because when someone is in power, it's for a particular tribe, then those around that region, they don't care. Even when the ship called Nigeria is sinking, they don't care. They're ready to go down with a ship because of the power of tribalism. I keep saying it. Tribalism is worse than racism. To those saying, oh, they're expressing racism in the Western world. Tribalism is worse than racism because in racism, you know those who are being racist against you. They look different. They talk different. But in tribalism, they all look like you. Same skin tone, same so-called country, under same government. Your neighbors who look like you, they eat from you. They do business with you. There is no way to distinguish in tribalism. Except because they know deep inside you are from a different tribe. There's no need for them to hate on you, but they hate on you because you belong to a different tribe. And because of that, they see no wrong in what their so-called leaders do because the leader is from their tribe. It is worse than racism. With all due respect. Let's continue.
So, Agnes Callamard, is what you're saying that there are resources that can be put to work in solving some of these problems, but the right priorities are perhaps not being made?
Yes, I believe that at the moment, the rule of law and accountability have not been sufficiently prioritized. I can take for proof the fact that in 2006, one of my predecessors went on a mission, and when I compare what he has found with what I have found, there are so little differences between the two reports. It is shocking. They are 15 years apart. So now is the time to prioritize the rule of law and accountability. There is a securitization strategy to address many problems, but security without accountability is not a solution for the long term. I'm not even sure it's a solution for the short term. It's just a containment policy. A containment in 2019, when the country is confronting the global processes I have identified of population explosion, increased poverty, environmental degradation, that containment policy is not going to work. It's not going to work. So it is time, more than time, too much time has been wasted. It is time to prioritize the rule of law and accountability for the people of Nigeria, particularly for the 49 millions that are living in extreme poverty.
Did you find that there was any positive change?
Yes. Yes, I have found a few positive changes. Now, for instance, in the Northeast, you were mentioning the conflict against Boko Haram. In 2015, 2016, that region was at the center of many concerns for human rights violations by Boko Haram, of course, but also by the security agencies. There was a vast number of allegations of arbitrary killing, disproportionate, indiscriminate bombing, disappearances, death in custody, massive death in custody, in fact. Now, those problems have not been investigated, and there is still not any accountability for those past violations. But the progress resides in the fact that allegations over the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, have decreased. So, for instance, allegations of arbitrary deprivation of life, there are far less of them than there were 3 years ago. That I take as a positive.
Wrong. Madam, with all due respect, that analysis is wrong. It is not far less. It's even worse now. It is worse in Nigeria. Your analysis has been flawed by you saying things are now improving and that the records are down because Nigeria does not keep records anymore. They don't have a record-keeping culture because what do? They are trying to hide everything from the Western world as much as they can. So for you to say such a thing has gone down, when every day we are living with kidnappers, Boko Haram and the rest of them, ISIS, ISWAP, the Fulani killer headsmen, always having like a name change. They call them the headers, they call them different names, bandits. They've turned the name of a terrorist to a bandit. They've called them headers. So when you go deeper into your statistics, those are those things you should be looking at. Check those factors, the variables in your statistics. Because when you're discussing Boko Haram, you should know those they are calling the headers, the so-called bandits. They are part of Boko Haram, with all due respect. And what is their primary goal? To Islamize Nigeria. They were brought to Nigeria to Islamize Nigeria. Please get that right. Your analysis is flawed. That is the problem. You just mentioned, oh, there's some good news here. You know, things have gone down. The stats has gone down because they have moved the variables around. It's like a magician throwing over a sheet on something and that thing vanishes. They keep on changing the definition. Do you know, madam, with all due respect, in Nigeria, those in media, they are not allowed to call out terrorists anymore? Those words have been taken away from their lexicons. They must call them headers. When the headers, oh my God, have mercy, I'm even saying headers. When the terrorists come to kill people in their farms, to take over their land, the media, the Nigerian media, they are only allowed to report it as the farmers and headers clash. They even put the farmers first. They put the name of the farmers first. Farmers and headers clash. What happens in a clash? Two parties arguing over something, and before you know it, their exchange of things happen at the same time, conflict and all that stuff. You call it a clash. But in the real case, when you go deep and see what is happening, old women are being raped by these men, these animals, these people that are less than humans. Old women in their farms are being raped, then chopped into pieces. Their farms being fed to their cows. But when it's being reported, they call it the farmers and headers clash. So when you take the statistics of the so-called farmers and headers clash, when you add that statistic, the numbers, to that of Boko Haram, you will see that the percentage has gone up. When you take the stats of the so-called bandits, those they call the bandits, we know who they are. Take the numbers, add it to that of Boko Haram, you will see the numbers will go up. I mean, if they can cajole those in Nigeria to report it the wrong way, what about you in the UN? I was thinking the UN, you operate at a point of El Dorado where everything's working for good. You have the technical know-how. You know when countries are telling lies. You have the data, the statistics. You know what is happening in the country. That's what I expected. In my assumption, I was thinking the UN knows it all. All we have to do is go to UN and cry. Write the petition. Give them the evidences. And our job is done. But we've been doing that for more than 20 years and nothing has come out from UN. For more than 20 years, we've been crying, begging, asking for you to come and protect us. Asking for you to come and liberate us. Because we thought the job role, the primary job role of United Nations is to come in and help safeguard a people. Support those who are seeking their independence, their own nation, the right of self-independence. We thought that was why we have UN in the first place. Perhaps this was all a lie. Which is why we, the Biafrans, we have taken our destiny into our hands. And from the 2nd of December, we are going home. We shall cry no more. We shall not go out there to beg like beggars no more. We have done that and we've done it enough. It is time for us to fight like men and protect our land. Madam, wrap it up.
Now I would like these positive signs to be, to those positive signs, I would like to see
positive
steps
signs
taken to ensure accountability for past
My
crimes.
God.
I would particularly like the many disappearances that have been brought to my attention by the children, the wives, the daughters and son of many disappeared men. I would like for those disappearances to be addressed as a matter of urgency because the torture it is creating for the people left behind cannot be underestimated.
They will not address it, madam. It's been lingering on for so many years. If you expect Nigeria to address it, then I'm sorry. Your visit was in vain. You wasted your time coming to Nigeria for 2 weeks. In fact, see you visit Nigeria like a holiday. You just went for annual leave to enjoy the hot sun. You know, there's the sunshine, the weather. But if you are hoping on them to make those adjustments, then you're wasting your time because in Nigeria, those that Britain told they were born to rule, Britain claimed to be a secular country. To an extent, they see themselves as a Christian country. But they went into partnership with those that swore with the Holy Quran to Islamize Nigeria, to dip the Quran in the Red Sea, in River Niger. Do you know the meaning of that? Do you understand the metaphorical expression? What it means for for people to say, we shall dip the Quran into the River Niger. Do you know what that means, madam? When you find out the answer, you'll be one of those that will start advocating for the Biafrans to leave. Because if Nigeria, if the caliphate, influenced by Saudi Arabia, if they succeed in dipping the Quran into the River Niger, madam, even Europe will not be safe anymore. Because if everyone in Nigeria, the giant of the so-called Nigeria, of Africa when it comes to population, if everyone in that place becomes radicalized, Islamized, hardcore Islamist, then those in Europe, you better start building those walls around your borders. The same way Trump is building a wall to cut out the Mexicans. It is time for you guys to start building because nobody will be safe. Once we get radicalized, once Nigeria succeed in making us to become Islamist, then nobody is safe in this world anymore because Nigerians are everywhere. You name a state that you will not find a Nigerian, which is why we're saying Biafrans are the only people that you can work with now. Because we still have that pure blood. We've not been tainted by any religion. Apart perhaps with the religion given to us by our slave masters. But our culture supersedes our religion, our way of life. We are Democrats by nature. To America, you have a friend in Biafra. To Europe, to the UN, it is time for you guys to rethink and reconsider for all that is good. Sometimes this life is not about the resources. Yes, you can siphon our resources through the caliphate. You can do all that. But the back end is something you should be looking at. The radicalization, the plan of Saudi Arabia through their so-called Islamic Bank. You see what they are doing? Those in Boko Haram, they are now in Nigerian military. Those we call the Fulani killer headsmen, men carrying AK-47, they are now in the Nigerian military. And the landscape of Nigeria has changed because they were promised an Islamic country. which is why they have come to Nigeria. And the only stumbling block for them towards achieving their goal is Biafra. So, madam, in my rebuttal to this your statement, I want you to know that the UN still have a friend in Biafra. With or without you, we shall gain our freedom from the 2nd of December. All we are asking for is for you guys to do what is right. Go back to your office, go back to the archive, go back to the files, go through them. Our reports are there. Unseal those reports. Go through the video evidence, go through the pictures, go through the detailed evidence that we have reported and filed to you every day about what our people are going through in that thing called Nigeria. And you will see that your description of Nigeria being like that of a pressure cooker it's a child's play. It's you trying to manage a situation. Nigeria is like a ship riddled with holes. Nigeria is sinking. And your explanation of Nigeria was like, oh, that ship just hit a, there's just a bit of, there's a bit of tide. The ship should be okay. No, the ship is actually sinking. So you saying that Nigeria is like a pressure cooker, with all due respect, you are being nice, you are being fair. You are trying to, to manage the situation by coming with a description like that. Madam, you can do much better. You and I know the truth. Go back to the archive. Go back to your office. Read about Biafra. The dossier is there in the UN. Read and see for yourself what we've been going through every day. Every day in that thing called Nigeria. Lord have mercy. I rest my case. For those who have ears, let them hear. For those who have ears, let them hear. Sometimes to fulfill all righteousness, we have to take our time to explain to the people. Even though we know they know the answers, they know what we are saying, they know what is going on, but sometimes they pretend they don't know. But to fulfill all righteousness, it is good for us to sometimes come here and break it down officially. I rest my case. From me, from here, for now, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I remain yours truly, Biafra, Superstars Media. God bless you. Bye-bye.